Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Snow The Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, Players Podcast, Prognosticators Podcast, Pedialyte Podcast, the only Flyers podcast. I'm Russ Joy. You can find me on Twitter at JoyOnBroad, and I'm joined as always by Anthony SanFilippo, who you can find on Twitter at AntSanPhilly, and the absolute beaut himself, Bundy, on Twitter at CTherien6. Gentlemen, the last time we spoke, it was at a nice little round table with the brain trust of the Philadelphia Flyers, and here we are, a weekish later. The Flyers have played 3 games. Matvei Michkov has found himself. He has found his ability to score. Jett Luchanko perhaps looks like an NHL player. We'll get into all that and much, much more. How are you guys doing? And more importantly, how does it feel to have real, meaningful hockey back?
Well, I'll tell you, staying up late to watch these games, then writing about them into the wee hours, and then getting no sleep and getting up to talk to you two in the morning is not my idea of a good time. But
wow,
I'll do it anyway.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been
makes you feel appreciated, doesn't it, Bundy?
Yeah.
You know what, Russ? I've had a lot more sentiment and love towards Anthony than he clearly does towards us.
That's right.
That's how you hate to see it. You think you know somebody.
Grumpy old man.
Well,
a grumpy old man. That's what it is.
Emphasis on the old, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But a married man nonetheless, and still glowing, it looks like, since
glowing.
Glowing
is right. Yeah.
Has the reality sunk in for Maria yet that like this is, forever now?
You know what?
She's okay?
She's so obsessed with everything. Like they put the video trailer together. She was obsessed with it. We got some pictures. She's obsessed with them. She got her new driver's license with the new last name. She's obsessed with it. She updated her work information, her work ID. She's obsessed with and I get pictures all day long. It's like, no, so it has not sunk in yet for her.
I was hoping you guys actually at your thing, Anthony, left one of those portable cameras. You know, where people take pictures and stuff? I would have really filled that camera roll with
I know you would. Which was what, I got to be honest with you. We discussed this, right? We discussed this going in. Like, should we put little portable cameras at the table for people to take pictures? And the first thing I said to Maria was, do you know how dangerous that would be in the hands of Bundy?
You would just.
And she said, you might be right. I said, yeah. So let's not do that.
You would have a lot of pictures that look like a button on a fur coat. That's just.
I was laughing because it makes me think of the line somebody said to me like a few weeks ago. They said, Gen X, the only group of people that was 30 when they were 15, and they're still 30 at 50.
That's the truth. That is absolutely the truth. Oh man, that's good stuff.
All right, so you don't have pictures of Bundy's ass on your on a camera now, so that's good. Let me ask you a question: Do we think that after 3 games, 2 in which Jett Luchanko has factored into the lineup, do we feel like the coaching staff has maybe shown its ass to the front office? Like, how do we feel about Jett Luchanko's play? I want to start there. I mean, obviously, the thing that people are going to be the most excited about this morning is the play of Matvei Michkov, and I think that's going to take up a lot of the show today. But I want to start with Luchanko because we all had, I think, a very different opinion of what he could be and the likelihood of him making the team on that episode that we did, the roundtable last week, which we've recorded prior to the final preseason game. The front office kind of alluded to the fact that the coaching staff really wanted to see Luchanko get a look. They weren't opposed to it. Then we talked to them away from the cameras, kind of got the feeling that they might think it's better for his development for him to go back down than it is for him to stay here. But through the 2 games that he's played, what has stood out to you guys? And I want to start with Bundy. Jonesy made the comparison to Rod Brind'Amour with the strength at such a young age. Does Luchanko to you look like a guy who is capable of competing on a night in and night out basis physically with grown men at only 18 years of age?
Yeah, I think, the first thing you mentioned, like a Rod Brind'Amour, and I played with Rod for a long time. Luchanko's a better skater than Brind'Amour ever was. So from that comparison, I don't see that. Rod was more of he was a chameleon, Brind'Amour. Like, he could be a good power play guy. He could be a great penalty killer, very solid 5-on-5 guy all the time. But he was physically built at 18. And I think that's what Jonesy's talking about. My issue is not the fact that he played a good game last night. So you got to remember, put yourself in Jett. Like, I have a son that's about 4 months younger than Jett Luchanko, and he's mature through his recruiting, but stuff. But I'm trying to put, like, last night watching a game, put my own son in a position like that being here. And I'm just going to flat out say, guys, he's just too young right now. He really is. He didn't go like top 3, and it doesn't mean anything unless your team needs a guy like that. But like Danny said by the elevator, Anthony, when we walked out, you get the little bit of the chatter after the chat. And Danny said to me, I'm more concerned about Jett Luchanko at 23 than I am at 18 years and 1 month. And that made sense. So it tells me there was probably a little bit of hand-to-hand combat in terms of what they wanted to do. Torts versus management. Torts won this battle because he wanted the player here. And I think Danny probably is saying to himself, all right, with the guy, we got to give the coach something out of the camp. And if that's what he wants, then I guess we're going to have to give him a look. I don't think the Flyers wanted to give him the 9-game or the 10-game look. I don't believe that. But we'll see, right? Crazy things happen, Anthony, with these 9-game look-see, peek-see kind of things. I don't like it, the 9-game thing anymore. I'll tell you why. I know it gives GM some leverage. I don't like it because I think there's a lot of ways that it can put the player in a bad situation. If you bring him up and then he's here, like here's Jett Luchanko last night being talked about matched up against Connor McDavid. What the fuck kind of world are we living in? And then you're going to send them back to junior to defend Denver Barkey. No offense against Denver Barkey playing for London, but that's what you're doing. And then that kid's going, oh man, I was just playing McDavid. Here I am back in junior. And it sometimes takes a little while for that notion in the kid's head to get back to the ground floor, which is major junior hockey. I don't think they're going to keep him, Russ and Anthony. Far stranger things have happened. But if they wanted to make him the youngest Flyer to ever suit up in a game, then they've done that. That's masterful. The kid has looked pretty good. It's not now I'm worried about. It's how the league can gobble you up over time. And when one game starts mirroring into the next game, what does that look like? It's great when you can the kid goes out, it's like, oh my God, I got to get fired up to play Connor McDavid. That's not hard to do. It's pretty easy to do, as a matter of fact, when you're a baby in the NHL, the youngest player in the league. So from that standpoint, there's some good to it. There's a good for him to have a look. But I don't like the demoralization part, sending a kid back to junior, even though you're trying to hype him up, saying you were right here. You almost did it. By the way, you got to go back to junior for the last 60 games. I don't like it at all. I don't like the formula. I wish he went back to junior from the get-go, but I don't run the team. That's just my personal opinion of how I would have handled it, knowing what it's like to have a 17-and-a-half-year-old son and what that comes with. So there's a lot that goes into it. I hope people understand that, but I'm looking at it as from the person side as well as the hockey player. This kid's got a bright, beautiful future ahead of him, but I don't think it should start right now in the NHL. He's been nice to see. He needs some seasoning back in junior. Anthony?
We needed to bomb first there, Bundy.
I didn't even realize I bombed. I had no idea.
You did, but you were on such a roll. I didn't want to interrupt you. It's the tricky thing about the Bundy bomb. Maybe
Does that
I need
make
to make
sense
Bundy
to you,
bomb
Anthony?
a picture-in-picture.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you, Bundy. And as a matter of fact, I don't even think he had that great of a game last night. I thought it was better than the first game he played against Vancouver. I thought he looked a little bit more overmatched against the Canucks, and I think that maybe it was a little bit of getting up for playing McDavid and Draisaitl and Edmonton. They were Canada's team last year because they made that run to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. So maybe there's a little bit more juice to that, and maybe that's why he played a little bit better. But I don't think he's ready for an NHL season. Pretty confident that he's going to be sent back to junior. I would say he's going to be with the team certainly through the opener. I think that there's a chance he gets the back-to-backs with Washington and then he goes back. I think that's kind of the, I was kind of under the impression that it was somewhere between 5 and 9 games and probably closer to 5 than 9. So I think that that's kind of where it's at. But and I agree with you that it could be detrimental. I'll take the optimistic viewpoint on it and say it could also be beneficial. in the sense. Yeah, in the sense that I'm not saying that it will be. I have no idea how Jett Luchanko is going to respond to this, right? I mean, it could be exactly as you said, but the alternative could also be that you get a taste for what it's like to play in the NHL. And you go back down there and say, all right, I'm going back to junior now. I dominate down here for this year and just show them that this is well beneath me and I'm ready to come back up there next season and be a part of this team.
Yeah,
it could be beneficial too.
Yeah, and I'm not saying to you that it's a totally detrimental thing. I'm saying that the possibility is there for every player that does it, that you can go back and it can have it can weigh a negative effect on you. That for sure can happen.
Sure.
So I always like eliminating anything that can create any negativity, but it can also create an amount of positivity at the same regard where the kid goes back really jacked up. I just feel like it's a lot, man, to come from the draft. The kid wasn't even sure he'd be a first round pick in June. And here he is playing in real NHL games, which is just unbelievable, you know? So I always look at, and I think what resonated with me was what Danny said. I'm more worried about Jett 5 years from now than I am 5 days from now. And so that's stuck in my head because I think Danny clearly is saying to me, Danny's a father of kids, maybe a little older than that too. If you have sons, you kind of understand it. And like that mentality, but I think that's what he was saying. I want a good hockey player in 5 years that's seasoned. We can plug right into the lineup. And that doesn't mean he'll probably be here as a 20-year-old for sure, but they want to continue that development. And this is just a part of the stages of development. So it makes sense. He seems like a great kid. I just can't help looking at my own son as he was sitting in the penalty box last night of saying, man, maybe I should get Chris to get this kid's number if they ever need to come over and have a video game play someday.
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, to me, it is a positive, though. I mean, listen, when the Flyers made the move, it really wasn't much of a move. When the Flyers decided that they were going to draft Luchanko where they did, a lot of pundits thought it was a reach, and I looked at it and I thought that it was a reach. Now, the fact that he made the roster at a camp doesn't mean he's going to be a great pro. In fact, it doesn't mean he's going to be much of a pro at all. Like, you don't know. Right now, you have a coach who was really pushing for him and wanted to see him play. If nothing else, it's an encouraging here.
Did we just? Oh, we lost Russ for a second there.
Am I gone?
You were, Russ.
Can you hear me now, though, Bundy? Am I okay?
Yeah,
you can hear you now. But it sounded like your phone plug-in might not be working properly.
No, I don't know what that was.
You dropped off for about 3 seconds there.
Anyway,
okay.
Go ahead.
We're going to keep going. But my point was, it's an encouraging sign that for a guy who some viewed as a stretch at a camp, and maybe it is just because the head coach pushed for it. Could be that. But I view it as an encouraging sign. We still don't know what he's going to end up being in this league. And I think that some people might have put a little bit too much stock into the fact that he made it out of camp. And they then thought that means he's going to be here for the full season. But you can certainly take some positives out of it. Bundy, I totally get the idea though here of it's a disappointment to him potentially. It could really take the wind out of his sails that he gets sent back down. But I don't know. At the same time, I have to think that it's a hell of a reaffirming thing if you're a player that, all right, I did get a look. There's significant confidence. And that, by the way, the person that he got the confidence from isn't just the organization that decided to draft him, but from a head coach who is notorious for, having a certain way that he looks at younger players in the league. So while I get that there's the human element of it being disappointed that he gets sent back down, you have to, at least if you're him, feel like, wow, okay, I did a lot of the right things here. And there's something to build on, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't play in this league. So I defer to you on that, but
one other note.
The guy I played with, Anthony will tell you the story too. There's a guy I played with, and you can jump. Sorry, Anthony. One guy I played with that they rushed his career along far too long, but he ended up playing about 20 years, but I don't think ever reached his full potential. And Bill Meltzer had mentioned it to me, and I said it right away. Dinas Zubris was a case of a guy who got rushed along far too fast. Had no business being in the NHL, even though he was a bigger specimen. He came from the Pembroke Lumber Kings, junior A team, tier 2 junior. I played for the Ottawa Senators when I'd come home from my breaks at Northwood. That told you what the league it was, That ended up just being, Zuby was just such a good talent, big, strong guy. He could play forever. but they rushed him into this league, and it ended up hurting his development, I think, rather than send him to major junior for a year and let him dominate. That never happened. Go ahead, Anthony. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No. It's fine. The one thing I was going to say was, and this is where I think we have to, give Danny, the leeway to understand, like that he understands his players. Maybe they look at the kid and they say, before they make the decision, they're going to keep him on the roster. Can Jett Luchanko handle a brief stint and then go, knowing he's going to go back to junior at some point? Maybe they've told him that. Maybe they've told him that. Maybe they told him in advance. Say, hey, listen, we're going to send you back to junior, but we're going to let you play some games here in the NHL first, just so you can get a taste of it, whatever. And maybe they feel like he's got that demeanor to handle something like this, and it won't impact him negatively. Maybe that was part of the due diligence that they did before making the final decision. I don't know that with 100% certainty, but I would like to think that, the way that, as meticulous as Danny is with stuff like this, I would like to think that that's probably an approach that he took. And if they determine that they feel like Luchanko is the kind of kid that can handle that, that probably made the decision to have him be on the roster for the start of the season a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, it's a good thing, if you have a first, it's a different situation if your player's in college, because you have to send the player back. You can't even come to camp. So,
right.
So that's the scenario that you can play with a little bit with the junior kids. Again, listen, do I think he looks out of place out there? No. It's not about being out of place in one game. It's being able to fit your piece into that puzzle so you feel good about your game every single day. And he's just not ready to be put into that puzzle because he's simply too young.
And not only that, let me throw one other thing at you guys. And this might shift the conversation a little bit. But Sean Couturier went from being the number one center in the opener to playing 9 minutes, third line last night, fewest amount of minutes of any player on the team. And I have to wonder if Coots getting off to a slow start really puts Luchanko in a bad spot, because now you're asking him to play probably a bigger role than you ever would have envisioned asking the 18-year-old kid to playing higher up the lineup. And so I think when you say find a role that, you feel good about your game every night, well, they're not able to protect. They haven't been able to protect him, or at least last night they weren't able to protect Luchanko and play him against guys that they would have preferred that he play against. Instead, he's going up against McDavid and Draisaitl and that line. And maybe that could end up overwhelming. And so I think it's a matter of finding the fit for him and sit there saying, is his role the role we want him in right now? And I'm not certain that it is.
It's funny looking at the matchups last night. I did Flyers pregame radio last night with Jason Martinez and Brian Smith, as I do for most every game. And we were talking about the matchup, and they were instantly saying, I think Luchanko is going to be getting the eye of McDavid. First of all, everyone knows you can't match up on the road like that. But I was looking at it from Edmonton's standpoint. If I'm Chris Knobloch, I'm not matching McDavid against that line. I'm looking for the Couturier matchup. I know Couturier's had success against McDavid in the past, but when you loaded it up with Draisaitl at the beginning, I'm thinking to myself, if you're going to turn this into a speed track, why would you race him out against Luchanko and those guys? I would put him against Couturier. Did you happen to see a lot of the matchups last night, Ant? Because that's would have been the one I would. If I were Knobloch, I would say let's put him out against Couturier's line instead of Luchanko.
Well, it was kind of hard to really track him because
it was hard. Yeah.
There were so many penalties, right? There were 11 power plays combined between the two teams in the game. And that's, when you have a disjointed game like that with all the penalties, I know Couturier gets into a fight in the third period, so he's off the ice for 5 more minutes, right? So it's really hard to see exactly how they're trying to match up. And then in the third period, McDavid and Draisaitl were basically being double shifted because they were trying to tie the game. So it was really hard to kind of see what Knobloch's plan was going to be there. But I get your point. Luchanko can skate, and that's what the game's turned into, right? The NHL is all about speed right now. So
yeah, you got a young Nat that's going to get all over McDavid, right? Like he's all like, I'm jacked up, right? Like he's all like, I got to go, man. I got nothing to lose here except go check McDavid. So I was just thinking automatically, why would you even worry about that matchup? I'd put him out again and turn it into a track meet against guys that are not quite the fleet of feet that McDavid is. Not that anybody is, but I would look at it from that advantage. It was a weird game last night, eh, guys? You like that? Yeah. Now we're transitioning off to the 2 goals, the 2-goal lead that gave us the 2-0 lead with Matvei Michkov. I'll tell you what, boys, this guy could operate in a phone booth. With some of that stuff that he gets a shot off quick, that little play around the net. I listened to my old buddy Chicken Parm, Ray Ferraro, bitching and complaining about that side of the net goal like he'd never scored about 200 goals from there in his career. So anyway, I sure enjoyed Michkov. I actually said last night in pregame I had a feeling he was going to have a special night last night, and I certainly think he did. He gets to hold the 2-goal pucks up for his first 2 goals of his NHL career, first 2 of many, I would suspect.
Yeah, I mean, he looked.
Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, well, so I think that the big takeaway that I've had through 3 games now, and it obviously continued last night, is Michkov's ability to fundamentally change the power play and the entire power play dynamic. It has been astounding. And his ability and his willingness to get into the areas that seemingly no one else on the team was willing to, like where he scored both of those goals from, right? Like one is a down and dirty goal that we kind of used to see Konechny do. And to some extent, I feel like we used to watch Briere do all the time. And then like last year, wasn't last year or 2 years ago is when Briere started working more one-on-one with Konechny, and we started seeing Konechny's game change a little bit. There, like that goal to me was so pitch perfect. Like that is exactly the kind of play that you want to see a young player, especially a high-skilled player, make early in his career. That shows that he's willing to get down and dirty, that he's willing to fight in the crease, that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get the puck over the line. The second goal to me was like a dominant play. It's a goal scorer tapping the ice, demanding the puck, knowing exactly where he wants to put it, and executing it at a high level. Now, I am certainly not going to go to the place that part of me wants to, which is like, hey, we had the conversation in the summer. What exactly is Michkov going to be? Is he going to be a Kucherov? Is he going to be an Ovechkin? What is he? I'll tell you what, there was a real brief moment last night where as I'm watching that play unfold and you watch the highlight of in slow motion of him demanding the puck and the pitch perfect placement of it, there was a second where I went, man, what a sniper. Like there's that potential with this kid. And it was the most exciting thing. Like if you're looking for a positive to take away from 3 games, the playmaking, the vision, we have seen that on full display. Last night was the first time that I felt like we saw the potential goal scorer as well. And what did you see?
I saw a pretty good start to his game last night. Obviously, get the 2 goals pretty quick. The first one was kind of an interesting goal because, you want to see that. He's got to be careful, though, jamming the goalie's pad. He kind of got away with it a little bit because he doesn't push it into the net. He pushes it off the pipe. If that pad slides back into the net, that's goalie interference, and it's not a goal. So it was borderline, but he did, to his credit, it's a goal. And like you said, the second goal was that's what you need to see on the power play. And look, they're 4 for 15 in the first 3 games on the power play. After being the worst power play in hockey for 3 years and really not being a good power play since before the pandemic, you got to go back that far. It's a delight to see that, know that they're going to have a man advantage and, there's a good chance that they can score here. And yes, he brings that dynamic to it. I'm not in love with his 5-on-5 game right now yet. I think it's still got its fits and starts. He's had some good 5-on-5 shifts. He's had some 5-on-5 shifts where he's been invisible. So I think that there needs to be better play there. He's shown a commitment to trying to do things the right way. He's blocking shots in the third period. I thought that was kind of an important thing. You don't normally see star players going to that length, for third game of the season. So give him props for that. But I also feel like he didn't make the right play in overtime that's on the last goal. Now, granted, Sanheim gets wiped out. Maybe could argue that was a penalty there and they didn't call it. But even after McDavid has the breakaway and Erson makes the save, Konechny goes and follows the puck into the corner where McDavid is, and Michkov peels off. And there's 2 more Oilers coming into the zone. Like there he's got to have a little bit more spatial awareness. right, Bundy, to kind of sit there in that high slot. You can't let Draisaitl come waltzing in. I know, Sanheim's behind the play. You got to have the spatial awareness to know that you have to be that guy in that spot. So like I look at that and say, those are the growing pains, right? Those are the things that are going to happen with a young. You're muted, by the way, Bundy. You got to unmute yourself.
Sorry, guys. I had somebody banging or something. You know what it was? I was just thinking that play though. Like that's just getting to know the game a little bit. You're talking about the overtime, right, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. He just swung like he wanted to play. He's got to have some defensive awareness to at least be a presence back. That was one of the most messed up plays I think I've seen in a while. That 3-on-3. I mean, you want to talk about a fire drill? Like holy shit, that was unbelievable. And then the fact, like I know the play broke down. Should there have been a penalty? Probably. I mean, that was a close one with the hook in. Was that on Sanheim from McDavid?
Yeah.
But then, okay, so forget it. So there's no penalty called. And then TK's like hiccuping up the ice, complaining the whole way, while he's thinking to himself, oh, it's McDavid. He's going to score on this breakaway. I'm not even going to bother chasing him. He misses the breakaway. TK skates by the net like it was like he'd already scored. McDavid grabs the rebound, throws it back out to Draisaitl. There's nobody still there.
Yeah.
Like that, you couldn't have had a bigger fucking men's league play than that. Like that actually looked like something. If you went out to like Penn Sock and ice rink and watched the game at 10 o'clock on a Saturday, that was a men's league play. Like it was unbelievable. You cannot get mad about what wasn't called. You have to get your head out of your ass and get back into the play because there's still a chance to pick up 2 points. You started off, and the other thing too, like in Edmonton gave away the puck, right? Like they actually had it and then transitioned the possession back to the Flyers. The Flyers made a good play on it, but man, you got to have somebody back. You can't just be 3 guys going full board towards the net because worst case scenario happened. Ref didn't call a penalty that probably 50% would have been called. And then everyone else assumed the best player on the planet was going to score on a layup breakaway while he was waiting for help. McDavid was going backwards with the puck to say, come on, who wants the goal? Yeah. Well, he ended up getting his own breakaway and then got his own rebound, made the pass, and finished the game. That was a mess of an overtime. It really was.
And I felt bad for Sam Ersson because he makes a great save on McDavid. Save. Right?
Yeah.
It makes an incredible
it was a great save. I don't think anybody expected that, right? Like, best player in the world has the game on his stick. You fully expect him at home to bear.
And I know what Michkov's thinking. He's trying to get in out if there's a rebound or a play at the net. But when you're the last guy following the play, you have to have some defensive prowess and some presence there. Even if they come down and score on a 2-on-1, it's easier than scoring on a 2-on-0. Or harder than scoring on the 2-on-0. So just if you're there, even if you plant yourself between the 2 guys, it's still better than having nothing there.
Correct.
Do you guys view that as, okay, so he makes kind of a not great play. Konechny makes a couple of somewhat boneheaded decisions on getting back and how that play plays out. If you're Tortorella, don't put yourself in the mind of Tortorella. Let's just go based on like what we know of him. Do you think that after the game, he has words, not negative, like not like heated words? Do you think that that's a situation where he talks to Michkov about the play that ends up sending play the other way? Do you think it's something that he arbitrarily holds over him? Like, do we think that there's going to be like a cut in minutes, or is it just kind of like, young guy, let's not make that mistake again? Had a good game overall. Like, where do you think it's at?
I think it's the highlight of video review today. I think they sit in the video review section and he uses it as a teaching lesson for the team, not necessarily to berate a young player or whatever, but it's kind of like, hey, good game. We could have had another point. This is where we need to be better. And I think that that's what he does. If it becomes a recurring issue, then you probably have we're having a different conversation. But I think first time a 19-year-old kid makes that mistake, he's probably not killing him for it. Yeah. But he's certainly going to point it out. Let's put it that way.
Russ, I want you to think of something like this, like in terms of how a coach would look at a play like that. I hope this makes sense to you. The effort was there, right? The kid's trying to make a difference. He wants to make a play. That's a great teaching moment to say, hey, let's take a look. And then believe me, video is so prevalent. Let's take a look at this. They're going to show the 2 guys up. They're going to show the presence of the Edmonton players. They're going to show the worst case scenario, which is what happened, and say, here's what happens if we miss the net. There's going to be a puck coming out. The fact that he circled with the puck tells me he's got a lot to learn defensively in terms of that presence, but it's teachable. It's not like it's a hockey sense thing. It's just saying, positionally, here's where you need to be. If you're the guy that's in the lead, that's somebody else's job to pick up from behind. No way they get mad at that kid for that. No way. I never would. If I were a coach, I just want to sit him down and say, hey, great game. You did some amazing stuff. You got us a 2-goal lead. But here's a couple things that's going to help your game down the road and that we need you to do for our team. And that's a simple, easy conversation that you can have with a lot of pleasantries exchanging. There's no need to get mad. There's plenty of things to get mad at. I'd be more mad at Konechny today if I were John Tortorella than I would at all about Michkov. And listen, I love TK. I mean, he's the highest paid player in the team. He's the guy that's here, but you can't do that. You just cannot do that. And it was the whole length of the ice, complaining to the ref, looking for a call. They ended up winning the game because of that.
I saw something last night on Twitter, and I want to make sure that I credit it the right way because I didn't love the tweet, but I did want to get your thoughts on it. I believe it was from the Liberty Yell. They put out a tweet that said something to the effect of, here it is.
Wait, what is a Liberty Yell?
I don't know. 8.75. I don't mean that to be a dick either. Like, they have a good following on Twitter. I don't know.
I didn't know what you're talking about, Russ. I'm sorry.
You're going to pop it up on the screen for everybody to see it?
Yeah. Give me a second. I have to bring it into it. I have to bring it into a different tab. That's a great point, Ant. Why?
I'm just trying to.
It's a great point. It's a great point. So here you go. So they put this out yesterday. So Charlie O'Connor from PHLY tweeted, ask Torts why he started Michkov out at left wing. So this is like this is yesterday before the game, right? Said that he liked the chemistry between Michkov and Konechny, that he views Konechny as a right wing only. He noted that he thinks Michkov will ultimately be fine on both sides, but right now he wants to focus on getting him comfortable. The Liberty Yell quote tweets it and says, $8.75 million a year for a guy who is a right wing only, forcing you to throw the 19-year-old rookie on his off wing. This is awesome stuff. That's clearly sarcasm. Now, I think that it's probably important to have a little bit of context here, that when we talked to the Brain Trust, they said that they're happy to have Michkov be willing to and open to and able to play both wings. This is very clearly an account that believes that Michkov should be playing on the right wing, which is where I guess in theory they expected him to play. And there's this kind of like sarcastic thing that they're already getting pigeonholed into having to move Michkov to the left wing because they need to somehow make it work with the guy they just paid this big contract out to.
Well, no,
I think it's off base, but like, where do you guys?
Yeah, I do. I think it's off base too, because the reality of it is that you look at your team when you're putting the roster together and look at the construction of it, and the Flyers obviously have a lot of depth on the right side, and so you say, okay, well, somebody's got to be able to play on the left side. Let's have training camp. Let's figure it out. We have practices, all these practices for a reason. Let's see who looks more comfortable playing on the other side. If Travis Konechny does not look comfortable playing on the left wing, you don't play him on the left wing. You play him on the right wing where he's comfortable. If Matvei Michkov looks comfortable playing on either side, doesn't matter. And Jonesy said to us, he can shift in game. Like, it doesn't make a difference to him. You don't have to say one game to the next you're shifting, but like in game you can shift. Then that's a good thing. That's a good thing to have, rather than sit there and complain about Konechny. Look at the versatility of Michkov and say, here's just another added bonus of what we really like about this guy, is that we can move him from one side of the ice to the other, and it's not going to impact his game. I think that's why I think that the Liberty Yell's tweet is just off base.
I'm wondering though too if there's a possibility, and I don't know this, guys. It's throwing it out, but I've heard it a few times. Does Michkov transition to center ice at some point?
Yeah. Russ asked that. Did you ask?
I did ask. I asked them about that at the roundtable, about just like, because Demidov, this is where like I think that you have to put like some stock into what guys, especially when you haven't seen them play domestically, right? Like Demidov and Michkov have both played together abroad at some of like the minor national team levels, right? And Demidov said that he believes that ultimately Michkov will be a center, or will at least get a significant look at center. I tend to trust that a player who's played for however many years with another guy has some pretty good insight, which is why I asked that last week. And again, Demidov seems to believe that Michkov has the ability to be a center. Briere said that they don't intend on really giving him much of a look at center right now. They're not ruling it out, but but that it's something that maybe down the line they could look at. I don't know, like positional flexibility to me seems like a great asset, a great attribute. I don't think that this hurts his development. I think that's where I take exception to that tweet, because you're not forced to move Michkov to the other wing just to accommodate Konechny. You could have Michkov play right wing on the second line. You could have Konechny play right wing on the second line. I think it's better to see what this kid has. And if he's willing and able to play both wings, it's a great thing. Like, it's a great bonus. I don't think it hinders him at all.
No, I agree.
I think it's actually quite to the contrary.
No, I agree.
And here's your other like recent comparison, right? Morgan Frost. For a long time, the thought had been, all right, they want to see him play center. They did not want to experiment with Morgan Frost on the wing. They were like morally opposed to it. Prior regimes were morally opposed to having Morgan Frost in the lineup as a wing because they thought it was going to hinder his development as a center. In the case of Michkov, they're saying like, whatever, like go play where it makes sense for you to go play. Go play where it's advantageous for you and for the team. I think it's a good thing. I don't know.
I don't have a problem with anybody playing where they want. I mean, there's certain guys that, have different, like the best one to give you an example of is Ovechkin, right? Like nobody's going to tell him to he's a flexible player, but he could never be a center, right? He's not a center. It's a pure right wing sniper. He can play loves shooting on his offside, much like Michkov. But there's some similarities when you look at the different types of plays and the different kind of players that you see. But that's certainly something with Konechny. I'd like to see a guy be able to move around a little bit on the ice too, like to say it. So, yeah, but I think that's a little bit of an unfair thing by that Liberty yell.
Yeah, you got it right, Bundy. You got it right.
Yeah.
Hey, can I go take it down a slight negative path here?
Oh no! Why? We're doing such a good job at being positive today. Why do you have to kill it?
Too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, negative. He's just going to say Phillies.
Three games into the season, the Flyers at even strength have been outscored 9-3.
9-3?
Totally fine.
9-3 through 3 games at even strength.
Totally.
That's problematic.
I didn't see that at all, Anthony. That's a great pull by you. I never looked at the goal scoring denomination. Wow.
Yeah. 9-3 at even strength. They were a team last year who thrived on how they grinded you at even strength. I mean, if they won all those games last year and couldn't score on on power play, they would score. They almost at one point had more goals shorthanded than they did on the power play. And while they do have one shorthanded goal so far this year, that's great. And they have the 4 power play goals, but only 3 goals through 3 games at even strength. You can't get by in this league scoring 1 goal a game at 5-on-5 and giving up 3 goals a game at 5-on-5. Like that's a bad disparity. And I know it's a small sample. It's only 3 games, but to me, that has to be the priority coaching fix right now. You have to be better at 5-on-5. Otherwise, you're really putting yourself behind the 8 ball trying to win games when you're not scoring at even strength. Like, I mean, you're just not. I mean, that's got to be the biggest concern for this team right now.
How much of it though? And the other thing too, guys, I'm just gonna say it if we're gonna be negative for a sec. I was not impressed with Fedotov at all in Calgary.
Yeah.
I thought that was very substandard goaltending in a game where after a good win to try to grind it out using the backup. I didn't like what I saw that night particularly. So hopefully there's some better nights ahead for him.
It's interesting because as the preseason wrapped up, many people, they were saying that Kolosov, he got to be around the team for preseason, but he's definitely going to go back to Belarus now. Like, he's absolutely going back to Belarus after this. He's not back in Belarus. I mean, I think it's pretty simple, right? Like we talked about this, and Danny actually said in the roundtable last week that they learned some things about Kolosov's situation that they didn't know months ago. And one of the things was there was a certain kind of pressure for him to play for his hometown team. Methinks that there was probably a conversation had at some point between Kolosov agreeing to come back over for the end of camp / preseason. And now that, hey man, just because we gave a multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract to Fedotov at the end of last year does not mean you will not get a look at the NHL this year. Now, I think that obviously they are not going to rush to have Kolosov come up and take starts at the NHL level. I think developmentally, they obviously want to get him acclimated to playing in the A, and then maybe giving him a look if there's an injury or if Fedotov continues to struggle. But like, I'm not surprised that he's still here. I fully expect Kolosov to stay here the rest of the season. And I won't be surprised if by like December, if Fedotov isn't playing better at that point.
I think it might be sooner than that. I think it might be sooner than that, Russ. I think it'll be in November. I do.
Really?
I do think that he'll get his. I think he'll get his first. I mean, obviously, you never know with injuries; like it can change everything. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's sometime in early to mid-November that he gets his first look.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I guess the last thing that I have on this, Bundy, what has been your impression so far of the way that they've played in their own end? Because I think that the other thing that I look at it with a little bit of a negative slant is the same problem that was getting them at the end of the year last year, where they really struggled to get the puck out of their zone.
Yes.
Reared its head a few times in the first 3 games, especially in the third period last night and a bunch of times against Calgary. Like I think that that's a concern.
Second period, I thought last night at times, unless there was some power plays, was bad. There was in the Calgary game too. Now listen, that was a back-to-back. I'll give them a little bit of that. You got hemmed in the third a little bit against Calgary, and the game they got taken apart. They're also on the road. I don't want to make excuses, because we've talked about this last year. They need a top pair that slams the door shut on any kind of offensive momentum that comes the other way. It's a boring job. It's not sexy, but that's how you take those moments away. That's where like you got to have a top pair that just boom, hammer down, puck out of the zone. However, let the other guys go. It's almost like you have to, the job of that is to just defend your ass off, but then find an efficiency of getting the puck out. And I think sometimes when they get that happens, they don't get the puck stopped. When I say stop, like when they're cycling, the other team's cycling and wheeling around, and there's open plays in front, you got to stop the puck. And then you got to turn it into a board battle and then wait for help. When you just go and get a puck, or you're poking at it and you're trying to make like a hope for, we call them hope for plays. There's too many hope fors in their own zone at certain times of the game. Now let's give them a chance to come home and see how that kind of works itself out a little bit. But because the road matchups and some teams, again, I'm always skeptical early in the year because a lot of teams use a lot of that early season momentum. They're at home. You just had your home opener. Guys are jacked up. So that comes into play. But Anthony, that was a part of the game last year that it wasn't addressed. Same core defense are back, except for, I guess, Eric Johnson, who finished the season here. But to me, if it's a 5-man unit that rolls out, that has to be, it's almost like a number one pitcher in baseball that gets the streak stop when you're losing. That's, for me, what a top pair and a top center does. They hammer the door shut.
Not that he's a top pair guy, but I think that you see the reason that they wanted to bring Nick Seeler back, because he's that kind of unsexy but reliable defenseman, right? And he's
can you
been
play
missing.
him against McDavid though every shift? Like it's not like here and there. So if McDavid comes into Philly, if Nick Seeler's that guy, can he do that every single shift and then move the puck out efficiently in the process?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he can.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so that's what it takes. Sanheim to me is the guy, and like that York and them can be a good pair. But again, I don't know. I still have a jury out on a guy that just played 500 games last night, which is absolutely amazing in a lot of ways. I wish he knew what he was at times, because he's up the ice trying to make a difference, and I love that because he's a great skater. But is he the best defensively? He's not. Was he minus a huge minus number last year? So
he was -3 last night.
Those are things like in games like that you can't be. And I said before the game, I said if Travis Sanheim wants to be that number one guy, this is a kind of game you need to slam the door shut. You got to let the other team know, like, this is what I do every single game, and it's boring, it's not sexy, but that's what makes your team win.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So like this, I just wanted to put those. I know everybody wants to be excited about Michkov, and you should be, but I just wanted to throw a couple of red flags up there because, the home opener's coming Saturday, and I anticipate when we're in that building, it's going to be the most electric crowd that we've had at a Flyers game in some time.
A long time.
Because of Michkov, right? Really because of Michkov. But at the same time, if these things are happening, you don't want that crowd to turn on them that quick, right? Like, let them know that this is already taking place. You may not be paying that close attention to it because you just want to watch the young kid play, and I get it, but these things are also there, and they need to be corrected. The defensive thing goes back to last year. Actually not scoring at 5-on-5 goes back to last year. It's just that they were good defensively at 5-on-5 last year, which they haven't been so far through these 3 games. So I think those are 2 red flags that I just wanted to point out as we go forward.
And I tell the fans too to be patient too. Like we asked the question again, you want to get excited about them? I think it's great. It is important to let the league know that we have a star. Like I had a guy last night, a kid that I knew last night, text me, does some work on hockey. He's like, man, can you believe the Flyers finally got like their Wayne Gretzky cornerstone player here? And I'm just like, would you just calm down? Just calm down a little bit. Like, table your excitement. It's great. He got 2 goals. He dug one out around the net, and he took a one-timer that went in. Let's just calm down here a little bit. Like, I love the kid's talent. I'm excited for him to be here. He seems like an amazing kid too. He's happy. It's great to see a kid smiling a lot. I love that. But at the same time, let's just relax here a little bit, right? Like we've seen Connor Bedard last year, him and McDavid's rookie years, they're great, but there's a lot of mistakes that happen too. So I implore the fans to understand that this is a kid learning the game and trying to grow both as a person, as a player as well. And that's really important. He's learning a language. He's learning a new country, a new league, new everything, a superstardom that he may not have even been aware of, right? Coming here, he's been anointed. The fans were waiting so long to anoint someone that they finally got their chance to anoint them. And I just tell people, just relax and enjoy him and let him grow. He's going to be a special player.
I do, before we get out of here, I do want to ask you guys, though. I'm thinking about this now, is kind of like mulling it over. So Michkov is the most important thing going on this team from the view of the fans. We just talked about the goalies a little bit ago. Ant kind of said the thing about Kolosov probably getting a look. The one thing I've noticed now, this was from the summer, this was through camp, there was the picture in the hot tub out in Colorado or wherever. There was a picture from the day before the Oilers game. Michkov appears to be like tied at the hip with Fedotov. Is there a scenario here where the Flyers maybe make a decision roster-wise on keeping Fedotov here longer because he's not a safety blanket to Michkov, but because they might have some form of a connection, it's important to have somebody who can kind of serve as a sort of mentor of sorts? Like Bundy, locker room-wise, could you see that playing out? I know you don't want to put too much into it, but I'm just noticing that and thinking
it's language, Russ. That's all it is. You're going to go to where you're comfortable. It's a human nature. If the kid doesn't speak very good English, well, he's going to go to the guy that he can communicate with, and feel comfortable with. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I think it's good for the kid. If he says to them, hey, I really like Fedotov. He's my good friend, and he really makes me feel happy. Well, then Fedotov can sit on the end of the bench and hand water bottles out all night if he wants. If that's what makes 39 happy, I'm all for it. I'll tell you what, Fedotov's going to show me a lot more than he did against Calgary. But if that's the safety blanket that the kid needs, I'm fine with it. Whatever makes him happy. He's new here. He's 19. He doesn't know the language. It's a new country. There's a lot of new for Matvei Michkov and for Fedotov. And I think it's fine that they spend time together and get to know that, maybe experience this new stuff together.
The one good thing that you could say to this, Russ, is that even if Fedotov turns out not to be the guy, the next guy coming in is also Russian or from Belarus, so speaks the same language. So maybe for Michkov, it's a matter of, okay, all right, Fedotov's not necessarily here right now, but Kolosov is, and Zamula's still there, right? So there's those guys who he can still connect with, and it's not like he's on an island by himself.
I think it's a good place to end. Now, I do want to point out to people, We were just talking about things that make people smile. Let's show some people something that might make them smile. Apparently, it's Zapruder film from the SanFilippo wedding. Oh, there he is.
Quick little.
Oh, that was short.
That's all it is. I said it's really short. That's all that I got. That's all that I got.
Back there. Now we're gonna do this in slow mo here.
I did the fucking worm too.
There he is.
Yeah,
that's a beaut right there. Look at him. He's got the moves. We got the little swim move going there. Is that a little Carlton going on there, Bundy? What's going on with the hands?
You guys missed a lot, dude. I break danced and everything. Fucking.
I literally watched that entire video looking for a clip of Bundy dancing, and that's all that I got. That's all that I got. There's plenty of photos. We got great photos.
Request a refund from the videographers.
But that was.
I think it's where we're at now.
Of Bundy dancing that I got on video,
guys. Great time. But you got it. And the next time I'll have to pull out the worm video. I have it somewhere.
Oh my god. I do want to point out to some people out there, all the people out there. Obviously, if you're wondering why we didn't bring the comments up, it's because we're recording this at an undisclosed time. I'm sorry. We have had conversations now about this show, and we're trying to get better. We're trying to do better than we did last year. We thought last year was a good year, but we can make it even better. We have had a conversation with somebody from the Flyers. The studio is essentially built now. We will probably be doing the regular Snow the Goalie episodes from that studio, which will be much nicer looking, probably better sounding. We're excited about that. I would like to remind everybody that we have creative control over the show. So if we still think that someone is playing like dog shit, we're going to say that they look like they're playing like dog shit. If we think that the coach is a dope, we'll say the coach is a dope. Nothing changes there. That's just built into our partnership. It's a beautiful thing. It's great when you run language by attorneys. It's fantastic.
We got an opportunity. We got an opportunity to sit in on that studio. We got a tour of it last week. It wasn't 100% done. It was about 90% done. Yep. They're still looking for some additional things to add in there, but it's kind of neat that there's all those cameras and a big table for us to sit around. There's going to be like a nice background for it. We'll be able to put up the Snow the Goalie logo on the screen. Behind, at the table with it. So it's going to be really nice. It's going to be a nice setup. Good work by them down there at the Wells Fargo Center.
It's going to look great. It's going to sound great. I'm not sure yet what that's going to look like timing wise. I'm not sure what that's going to look like with live comments. We obviously know that the Press Row Show will always be live for every home game. We'll be back there on Saturday. Puck drop is at 7:00. I expect that we're going to go live at 6:30. Maybe we'll go live a little bit earlier. I don't know what kind of guests we'll have for that first Press Row Show pregame. But if you didn't watch last year, if for some reason you're new to the show, which we appreciate you tremendously, we do that every pregame, intermission, and postgame. We keep the stream up the whole time. We put a stat cast up on the screen for during the periods to try to give you a little bit more insight. Some actual numbers in real time, so you can keep it up on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, whatever. But we'll be doing that for all of the home games. We are up next to the Oregon on the balcony level. If you go to section 121, there are 2 glass doors and 2 private elevators. You tell them you're going up to the sports book, which you kind of are. You go up to the balcony level, and as you come around the corner, you'll see the organist, who we love, great guy, and then it's us. So if you want to come up, you want to shake hands, you want to get a picture with Bundy, get an autograph, whatever, we will be up there. So we're looking forward to another big year, and I think it's going to be bigger and better than last year. Guys, anything else before we roll out?
Nope.
Okay.
Good stuff, guys.
All right, we will be back.
Looking forward to the home opener. It'll be a good time. I know it's going to be a great time. We tell people to come up and see us all the time, and it is. I'm looking forward to the homestand this year. Going down to those games is one of the best things I do in my life. And love it's because of you fans. So keep coming up and seeing us. You never know when we're going to put you on either, right, guys?
I understand. I understand. We have a really nice size banner too, Bundy.
It's a good banner. It's a good banner.
Well, you know what? Banner. You order banners based on your own personal size.
That's right. That's right.
So you'll know what I mean.
You'll see it. You'll see it on Saturday. Everybody can chill.
Cheap motherfucker.
I'll see you doing shit to get a banner, Bundy. We're gonna get such a big, beautiful banner. This is like a precursor to the big banner. We're doing a little banner. We're doing a little one, and then get a big old banner. All right, we'll be back on Saturday live from Wells Fargo Center, 6:30 p.m. on the Snow the Goalie YouTube channel, Facebook, and X. Until then, that's Ant, that's Bundy, I'm Russ. Thanks for watching, maybe even listening to Snow the Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. We will talk to all of you Saturday night.